We are living in an era of seismic challenges. Our global food system faces never-before-seen stresses, from the climate crisis, population growth, and fractured supply chains. But might these shocks to our system actually be a catalyst for positive change? This is just so incredible. I'm on a journey to witness for myself. Oh, look at this! How farmers, scientists, and innovators are radically reimagining how we grow our food and produce it. I feel like I'm in a space station and super perfect lettuce has just magically appeared from the heavens. It's a quest to meet the greatest challenges that are facing humanity.
We have to wake up and we have to feed the world. That's a big job.
And create a new and better food future. This episode, I'm taking a trip into the future.
10 years ago, this was science fiction.
To discover how technological innovation is radically reshaping the agricultural world.
Introducing robotics into farming is inevitable.
Redefining production methods, sustainability, and how and where we farm in the decades ahead.
We envision a future where smallholder farmers prosper in a digitally interconnected world.
Farmers have always been on the cutting edge, adapting to an ever-changing world and set of challenges. But today, advances in technology are happening at lightning speed. So what does this mean for agriculture? How is it embracing these opportunities? And what might the farm of the future look like? I'm going to be exploring a brave new world of futuristic advances in digital technology and how these could potentially be married up with more time-honored traditions. I want to find out if the future of farming is going to be farmer-free or if these advances are going to open up a whole new world of high-skilled career opportunities while helping achieve global food security. I'm going to begin my journey by exploring how the worlds of science and technology are helping farmers understand crop behavior like never before.
So if you look at precision agriculture today, there are sensors which measure the surroundings. Like they measure temperature, they measure humidity, but there are no sensors which can measure the plant itself. So if you want to protect the crop, you want to protect productivity of your urban farm, we think that we need sensors which can measure the plant itself.
Scientists at the Singapore MIT Alliance for Research and Technology and the Temasek Life Sciences Laboratory have been working on a revolutionary method to make farming one of the most efficient ways to produce calories ever.
In olden times, or even now, when a farmer wants to know if his crop is healthy or not, he goes and looks at the color of the leaves with his experience, notices a change in the plant. It's mainly the plant color, the leaf color, and usually it is too late to reverse it back.
When plants are under stress, chemical changes within their leaves reveal a code or secret plant language that's practically impossible for a farmer to detect with the human eye. But using laser technology, Dr. Singh and his team have developed a way to read and decipher the different messages the plant is emitting.
If I switch on the laser, you can see that the Raman carotenoid peaks are visible. So these peaks are important because they tell you about the nutritional capability of the plant.
The less stressed a plant, the higher the peaks the laser can detect, which represents healthy biological activity. Those peaks that are low or missing can reveal potential problems. With plans to embed the technology into mobile handheld devices, this will mean that farming in the future can be more precise and more efficient than ever. And to see for myself where cutting-edge tech like the plant sensor might end up, I'm heading to a new breed of farm that seems to be a natural home for all the technology you could throw at it. Expected to be worth a staggering $50 billion by 2026, the indoor farming technology market is now a serious player when it comes to producing food.
Whoa, look at this. This is insane. The sheer size of this, how tall is this?
It's actually about 55 feet high. This is a metric cube. So this is kind of 10 by 10 by 10. So if you picture each one of these rows, you're looking at 13,000 plants.
I'm inside the world's first fully automated indoor farm. Sitting on just over 1 acre of land, 10 acres worth of produce is grown by stacking the fields one on top of the other, producing a massive 2 million pounds of lettuce each year alone.
You cannot see a space in between these. They're way denser than you could ever get in the outside world.
With the entire growing system controlled by computers, I can see how something like the plant sensor would fit really well in this world.
This is almost like coding. It's almost like biological coding, programming plants, understanding their behavior and trying to elicit that behavior by programming their environment.
Absolutely, and that's really the big step, is moving from learning how to improve growing because I saw something or we saw something and it looked good, so we want to try and replicate it,
Yeah.
to actually using cameras, using artificial intelligence to detect those differences. And so we can be iterating on a much, much faster basis.
I think there's something happening behind us, and I'm kind of worried that the robots are taking over.
What you're seeing is actually one of the plants and one of the tables coming all the way down from where it was growing on its way out to get harvested.
I feel like I'm in a space station, and super perfect lettuce has just magically appeared from the heavens.
And the automation doesn't stop there. What would traditionally be a labor-intensive process has been given the full tech overhaul, saving time and money, ultimately allowing the team to have between 17 to 20 more growing cycles than outdoor agriculture each year.
And then what happens?
After that, you just stack it on here. And that's it.
It's 200 plants in like 10 seconds or less.
And that's how we do it.
Astonishingly, it takes just 10 people to plant, manage, and harvest the tens of thousands of crops that pass through here every single day of the week.
So after these have been rehomed into their bigger modules, where do they go next?
Yeah, so then we take them and we put them into large tables.
Yeah.
Which is what they're going to end up living in as they work their way through our grow zone.
Okay.
And we end up doing, with this exact process, 70 to 80,000 plants a day.
In roughly 20 days, the crops have matured and are ready to harvest, a process that takes 3 to 4 times longer in traditional agriculture. To find out how urban farms like this one are going to revolutionize our food production system in the future, I'm catching up with 80 Acres co-founder Mike Zelkind.
In the future, will you ever see things like the carbs that fuel humanity? You know, your wheat, your corn, your soy being grown in a system like this?
Yeah, we feel that to really make vertical farming become important in this world, we all have to get beyond lettuce.
Yeah, it's not a salad machine.
Exactly. Will it be growing corn and wheat? Not necessarily. That's not the most effective thing to grow. We feel tomatoes and cucumbers and peppers and soft fruit like strawberries and blackberries are critical to make this a very important capability all over the world. The goal is to prove that you can grow the essential food supplies to a lot of these locations that have high population, scarce natural resources, and need sources of food that are local, that are close.
An added beauty of being able to grow this many acres of food in an urban environment means it frees up farmland further out to concentrate on producing more staple crops like wheat, maize, and rice that will be just as vital in the future.
So you've come an enormously long way. This is 80 Acres Farm 2.0. What's the next step?
The future is systems like this spreading all over the country, then to the rest of the world. 10 years ago, this was science fiction. Today, it's possible. In 5 years, it'll be so ubiquitous that we will be shocked that this wasn't done before.
Farming has always been on the forefront of automation. But until now, some produce and processes have simply been out of our reach for mechanization, forcing us to rely heavily on manual labor. This is becoming increasingly challenging. With fewer people wanting to take on these jobs, farm labor is becoming expensive. Add in a global pandemic, and it becomes apparent what can happen when the supply is switched off.
2020, 2021, man, it was a heck of a roller coaster. We have been deemed essential workers to help feed the world, but because of that, we've also had a lot of struggles. It took us a lot longer to get through the field as we would in a normal year. Here on the ranch, I employ 160 seasonal workers. We only harvest by hand. We've found that our harvesters, they're professionals. They're great at it. Biggest issues is just lack of people that are willing to do the job.
Too soft and delicate to pick with anything but the human hand, strawberry harvesting has remained largely untouched by technology for thousands of years. That is, until now.
All right, I'm very excited to introduce you to our TX22 robotic strawberry harvester, the first machine in the history of the world to pick strawberries with robots and sell them to consumers.
This monster machine uses a fleet of cameras and sensors to precisely identify the berries on the plant. As it works its way through the field, each machine can cover a quarter to half an acre an hour, with a fleet of 25 robotic harvesters able to match the work of between 80 to 100 workers a day.
It's a workhorse. We can reduce a grower's headcount by about 60%, and just one person can operate 5 of these machines at any time. So it's one of the many reasons we love her. So we have a little gentle suction cup here that helps pull the strawberry away from the foliage, and then we have grippers that come down, just grab the strawberry, twist it, and remove it from the plant. There's no damage to the berries. This is all food-safe equipment, and it's taken us a long time to figure out, but we're really happy with it.
To feed roughly 10 billion people in 2050, we need to dramatically increase food production from its current levels. But without the workforce to harvest these crops, agriculture must adapt.
Introducing robotics into farming is inevitable. I don't see a future in the next 20 to 30 years where farmers are still as reliant on human labor as they have been in the past.
But the good news is, it doesn't need to come at the expense of jobs.
The automation within the ag industry won't harm the workforce. What it will do is it will move the workforce from out into the open fields into more of a controlled environment, into packing houses or into tech jobs to help maintain all of the equipment that will be on site. It's really going to be interesting and exciting.
Faced with a growing global population to feed, farming must innovate to keep up with demand. So I want to know how technology can help to ensure that every crop planted makes it to harvest.
What satellites offer farmers is a view from above. And so we can essentially see almost every field across the world on a daily basis.
Technology and digital innovation are revolutionizing the world around us at a phenomenal pace. So I'm finding out what that means for agriculture and how it's responding to this dramatic change. I've arranged to speak to Dr. Inbal Becker-Rescher, Director of NASA Harvest, NASA's Food Security and Agriculture Program, to find out how the agency's work up in space is having an impact down on Earth.
Hey there, Inbal. I'm fascinated by this program, but mainly because I understand so little about it.
A lot of people, they think NASA and they think satellites, they think astronauts. But in fact, agriculture has really been at the core application for satellites all the way from the beginning in the early 70s when the first satellites were launched.
I think it's fascinating that a satellite that is orbiting an incredible distance away can actually tell a farmer information about the field that he may not know when they're standing in that field. How does that information benefit farmers?
So we can essentially see every field or almost every field across the world almost on a daily basis. And what the satellites do is they can see in the visible range what we can see as well, but they can also see things that we can't see. So satellites provide us information in the near infrared, in the shortwave infrared, in the thermal. And what they do is they provide us a lot of information around crop health, for example. So they might be able to show a farmer that he's got an issue in a part of his field, or if a farmer can detect that early through a satellite, for example, they can address just that issue before that spreads to their entire farm. Our capabilities today are very different than what they even were 5 or 6 years ago. And part of that capability is enabling us to much better monitor smallholder systems. I think probably we all recognize smallholders produce a tremendous amount of our food. They're a critical part of food security, produce, I think, close to a third of the food in the world. But they also have the most complex agricultural systems.
There's no better example of the important role smallholder farmers play in global food production and security than in Africa. Across the continent, there is an estimated 33 million of them, contributing up to 70% of the food supply.
I was brought up in a farming family, and it has always been my passion to do farming. Agriculture is very profitable. If only the small-scale farmers were reached with the quality information.
In the past, for smallholder Margaret Wambui, reliable data to help inform her farming decisions arrived in a relatively low-tech form.
We get the weather information from radios, TVs, but now the problem of this information is that it comes in as news. So if you are not there to listen to the radio at that particular time, it's gone.
But in recent years, Africa has been going through a digital transformation. A drop in smartphone prices from an average of $230 in 2012 to $160 in 2015 has allowed more people access to the internet than ever before.
Margaret, how are you?
Hi.
The result is that organizations like Mercy Corps Agrifin and NASA have opened up satellite technology and vital real-time farming data to smallholders who would once be financially precluded from it.
In Africa, about 60% of the population is actually involved in farming, and a large percentage of this population is smallholder farmers. Now, there's been traditionally a lot of challenges working with smallholder farmers. Now, what satellite technology does is that it creates an opportunity, so you're able to then, at one go, get a picture of the different scenarios and issues that are affecting multiple farmers. And you're able to then translate that information to positive advice to ensure that those farmers make the better decisions so that they can increase their productivity and incomes.
Alongside detailed satellite imagery, data on weather forecasts, soil moisture, and water availability is now just a tap away.
The start of this season, I used this app before planting. And actually, I realized that the amount of rainfall that we shall be getting this year will be enough for the maize crop. That's why I decided to do maize, and it has actually been doing well.
This is fantastic. Yeah, it's a good crop and a good harvest. A number of the farmers that we have worked with have reported improved yields, have reported a better sense of satisfaction and hope that they can now actually turn around their farming business. We envision a future where smallholder farmers prosper in a digitally interconnected world.
Access to satellite technology is helping turn isolated, low-income smallholders into globally connected farmers, able to utilize high-tech information on a more level playing field. But I want to know, in what other areas of agriculture can it have an impact?
You know, when you hear the word grass, your mind might instantly go to that sort of inconsequential green carpet of people's front lawn. But on this sort of scale, it is absolutely fundamental to the nutrition of entire civilizations.
That's because cows and sheep turn grass into meat and milk, two key components of diets the world over. But for farmers, managing their pasture land can be an enormous challenge. So speaking to me from Australia is dairy farmer turned ag-tech entrepreneur Ollie Roberts, who's using satellite data to help make this job a whole lot easier.
Ollie, there you are. How important is managing pasture land?
Managing pasture is absolutely paramount to farmers. It can be their most cheapest and nutritious feed stuff that they can feed their animals. So it's directly correlated with their profit margins and their livelihoods.
It's this that's driven Ollie to create Pasture.io, an application that uses satellite data to give the farmer on the ground a clearer understanding about what's happening to the grass in their paddocks.
I have your app right in front of me. I'm looking at some very impressive looking graphs, and yet as a botanist, I don't know what those graphs mean. Where's the data in this graph coming from? How do you get the stats in the first place to input into this?
It's coming from the machine learning models that we have developed. So those machine learning models utilize satellite imagery. So we take the analytics out of the satellite imagery. It also utilizes local weather information. So rainfall and temperature and those sort of things.
Your AI is able to sense whether the field is overgrazed, undergrazed, or any variation in between those two extremes.
Exactly. And we're able to produce, say, how much pasture is on a paddock and how quickly the paddock is growing. You're trying to make sure that your animals are entering into a paddock at the right pre-grazing height and leaving the right residual behind. So then the plant can perform at the best it can, while your animals can perform at the best that they can. The most exciting piece about this technology is that it learns each individual paddock on a farm. So it's a spatial learning model, and it's one that is learning paddocks in South Africa. It's learning paddocks 50 kilometers north of Quito in Ecuador and in the United Kingdom. So it's incredible.
Well, Oliver, thank you so much for your help. It's fascinating stuff. I can't wait to see where we go from here.
Thank you very much, James. It's been a pleasure talking with you.
Technology, whether it's in the field, on your phone, or up in space, is really transforming how we produce our food. It's allowing us to make these ever more precise, ever more efficient decisions, which could really translate into a level of environmental sustainability that we've never been able to achieve in the history of agriculture. The promise to really transform human health, but also the health of the planet, is phenomenal.